Hi, I'm John Salajka, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It is time for ResultsLeader.fm. I'm so stoked that you guys are here. And as always, I have another amazing guest for you. For over 25 years, John Salajka has helped a wide variety of people, teams, and organizations clarify their vision and strategy, develop a plan, and then accompany them on their journey to execute their plans. And you're going to hear this all over the interview. John is a man of action and integrity. My favorite part, though, was towards the end where I had to dig in. He's got these kids that are doing amazing things, and I asked him, how'd you raise your kids to be so amazing? And he gave us his 3 rules for parenting. These are priceless, so make sure you tune in all the way to the end to hear that. So let's jump in with Mr. John Salajka. John, what is up, my man?
Oh, it's a crazy new year, huh? It started off nuts.
Started off nuts? I hope that's nuts in a good way.
Yeah, it is for me, but just crazy in the rest of the world.
I mean, there's so much to talk about, but yeah, I just wrote up a piece on that saying there's 2 kinds of crazy. One kind of crazy is the people that think the world's coming to an end. The other kind of crazy is the people that think that there has never been more opportunity. Which side are you on?
Exactly. I'm certainly on the opportunity side. I'm more of an optimist, and I think that if we either choose to live or we choose to die fundamentally. And I'm definitely more in alignment with choosing to live and focusing on the positive and the opportunity side of things.
What a perfect setup for the Results Leader podcast. John, I'm glad you're here, man, and you are definitely one of us. So let's jump into a softball for you.
Okay.
What book or books have you given most as a gift?
Well, okay. The most that I've given would be Atlas Shrugged.
Interesting. Ayn Rand. How come?
Yes, because I think that book challenges you to answer this question. What do you believe and why do you believe it, independent of the beliefs of other people?
Holy crap. It's like we planned this. That's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome, man. And that's the first time I hear Ayn Rand on here. So thank you for that. So this is a fun one for most of us entrepreneurs who have had our ups and downs. I imagine you have as well. So, yes. John, how has an apparent failure set you up for later success?
In 2001, I sold my first business, and I was in my early 30s. I was excited. I was in the technology space, wrote custom software. There was a lot of money flying around with all these internet startups, and I got approached by a company that seemed to have a lot of money. And I got real excited about it, went into that opportunity, and I'm going to make millions. And I did on paper. And then 18 months later, I'm having to borrow money from my father in order to feed my family.
You said I did on paper. What does that mean for some people that might not get that?
They bought my company for $2.3 million cash and stock. And then they didn't have all the cash. So they had to convert that to more stock. And then I came to find out that the company wasn't as solid as they seemed to be. You know, the due diligence process only goes so far. And there was things beyond that on the time horizon that I wasn't aware of. There was also my own inadequacies. I can look back on that whole experience and realize that I sold because I realized that I wasn't good enough to take the company to the next level. At the time, I didn't know this, but I look back on it now, and I was running away when I sold the company. I wasn't actually running towards something. I was able to escape my own fears, my own insecurities. And because of that, I was naive, and I was even unwilling to see some of the things my gut was telling me was wrong, because I wanted this to work so I could avoid not being good enough to run the company that I had built. It had grown to a point where it had outgrown me. And I wasn't growing because I was just producing. I was too young to realize that I had to actually work on myself. And I just kept working on the business, the product, the process, and not actually on me as a leader. And suffered all the consequences as a result of that.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So that was the failure part, and obviously, as you get older, you realize the self-reflection and what was missing. So what changed, and how did you grow from that experience?
I got employed by a client. By pure coincidence, they had an opening in a position that I was perfect for. They'd been a client, so I walked right into that position with an 8-year relationship, and then I busted my bananas trying to really undo everything I just experienced. And I went into this thing on fire. We're going to make things happen. And we did. We hit all the quantitative measurements they put in front of us. As a matter of fact, they blew it all out of the water. But in my review at the end of that year, I'm getting 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5 on all the quantitative things. And then my boss said, but, and I've come to realize but means behold, the ultimate truth. And he said, you're killing everybody. He says, you can't do this. And we started to have a little bit of a dialogue around, well, if you'd let me have the people I want. I wasn't really good at working with B players and certainly not C players. I didn't know how to develop people. So I would write people off. You're either a superstar or you're either in the way, you're on the team, or you're in the way. And I had this all or nothing mentality about leadership. And he said, this isn't going to work. And this is a Fortune 250 company. So they've got processes around all of this. And I just wanted to make quick decisions, let people go, bring new people on. And he said, we're not going to do this. He says, as a matter of fact, John, you're creating enough conflict in this organization that we're going to go on a leadership development weekend. And I said, if we're going to do, so we don't have time for that. We should do a strategic planning thing. We don't have time for this touchy-feely, happy crap BS. And he said, well, that's too bad, because if you don't go, you're fired. And I said, oh my God, it's that bad? And he goes, yeah, John, it's that bad. So we wind up going on that weekend, and it changed my life. I wound up realizing what people really thought of me, that they respected my ability to perform, but they were angry at me. I'd imposed my style on them. I didn't accommodate their styles. I didn't even really listen. And what I came to realize is that I was so afraid of making the same mistake here that I made in my last company. I didn't want them to pay the consequences, them not to get their raises, them not to get their promotions, us not to achieve our goals, that I just ran roughshod all over everybody. And through that leadership weekend, the owner of that organization named Gary approached my boss and said, hey, I can help John. And he started working with me and became my first leadership coach. So that whole combination of failures woke me up.
I got to dive deeper into this because I find it fascinating. All right. So I think this is what I heard. You put your inadequacies or your feelings of inadequacy from your last failure and kind of imposed them on these people, but you were doing it for their own good because you wanted them to win. And so when you came back, is that something that you got transparent about and let them know? Or what were the changes that you made so that you could be a better leader for these people?
Well, first I had to change my behavior. I was told, do not go and try to apologize too quickly. Nobody cares. You have to change your behavior first before they're willing to listen to you tell a story. So I first learned how to slow down. I learned how to pause. I learned how to listen for understanding, that is, as opposed to just content, and to empathize, to learn how to ask questions instead of declare my opinion. And he helped me change my style so that, here's a funny part of the story. He gives me a 360 evaluation. So bosses, peers, all these different people do an assessment when we begin our coaching relationship. And this includes family members, things like that. So I go back to my coaching session with him, and he's reading this. He goes, I've never seen this before. He says, John, you got a 0 in empathy.
Wow.
He says, he goes, I have seen that before. He says, but your mother took this.
Whoa.
And I was so focused on efficiency and performance that I had no empathy for other people because I assumed everybody was focused on the goal, not the relationships. I just didn't see it. So he helped me see that the people matter more than the outcome. They both matter, but the people matter more. And I was more focused on the outcome. And I assumed everybody else was too. And he taught me how to see those differences and to learn how to have conversations where I'm less intimidating and less overwhelming and more welcoming and actually empowering of other people. And as obvious as that sounds, I just didn't have the style. I hadn't been,
That's
I was
powerful.
exposed to command and control, and I adopted that well.
Yeah, yeah, I could tell, but times have changed. So let's. I think this is a good time to ask what you would say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made.
Wow, there's so many. In committing to a program of personal development, not just reading books, but actually developing a program, getting coaches, working with other people that have been down the path that I've been down, and to find out how did they get off that path? Because that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of energy. It's not money. It's being willing to commit to completely redoing everything. What do I believe? What do I think? What do I say? How do I talk? And in my case, how do I walk? Because I walk too fast. That's intimidating. People find that very discomforting. So I had to slow down. But it was that, committing to a program of living.
So is this something that you discovered? It had to have been after that breakthrough you had when you went on your own, that you had to figure out different ways to grow and get different perspective. Is that when you figured it out, or was it after that?
Well, it was a combination of things. One, I started working with Gary, and Gary opened my eyes. And then I started asking deeper questions of myself, and I got deeper answers. I learned within this process that I'm an alcoholic. So a year after I started working with Gary, I realized that one of the biggest obstacles to my growth was the way that I drank. And, I had to eliminate that from my life.
Dude, I got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up here. Now I want to ask a question about that, and hopefully I'm not getting too personal. Did you totally quit drinking? Do you still drink? What did you do to solve that?
Well, I wound up reading a book on April 1st of 2006. I was reading a book that coincidentally fell into my life, and it was called Drinking, A Love Story. And as I'm reading this book, I bought it because I thought it was going to be like a memoir, a comedy. And I didn't realize that it was a woman's story about how she came to realize she was an alcoholic. And as I'm reading this book, she's describing all the different categories of her life: personal, financial, health-wise, religious, spiritually, every realm of her life, how it had been deteriorating. And as I'm reading this book, sitting in my garage, drinking a vodka, smoking a cigarette, I'm realizing that I know what's going to happen next in all of these different situations. And then at one point, she's talking about the spiritual degradation of her life, where when she was a child, she believed this. Then she became agnostic and this and that and struggled for her belief system. And she said that it finally got to the point where the only thing that she ever prayed for was, and I remember getting to the bottom of that page, and I remember just going, peace of mind. And I turned the page, and right there it said peace of mind. And I knew, and I remember looking at the wall, just going, holy S, I'm an alcoholic. Because for the first time in my life, I'd been presented with a story I could relate to that really helped me understand that I am an alcoholic, not just somebody that struggles with drinking. I met the definitions as she defined them, like, holy cow. So I made a decision. I said, okay, tomorrow will be the last day I ever drink. And it was one more day. So I haven't had a drink since my last drink was April 2nd, 2006.
Holy Toledo, Batman. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And the reason I ask is because I think I may have been struggling with that. And it's been about a year and a half now that I haven't had a drink. And it was just like this thing, there's something wrong here with my habit, and it doesn't seem to be serving me. And so I did the same thing. I just decided I'm done and quit.
Good for you. That's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but I don't miss it now. And I bet you don't either. Life is so good.
Yeah, I haven't had a drink in a while.
Yeah,
but it was getting in my way.
Yeah. That's man, that's deep. I didn't expect to go there. So let's talk about. Let's fast forward a little bit. In the last 5 years, John, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
The belief, first of all, I've always struggled with the limiting belief that all relationships are merit-based from the moment they start. And that as soon as there's a perceived drop in my value in that relationship, I'm going to be thrown away and laughed at behind my back. Because I'd had experiences in my life when I was really young that I chose to develop that belief out of those experiences. And that's affected my professional relationships. It's certainly affected how I try to sell and promote myself in the current business that I have. the biggest belief change that I've had to develop is that I bring value to relationships just by being me. And I had to struggle to form that belief and really believe it myself. Other people believed it, but I didn't. And I've spent the last few years really struggling to fight that belief, engaging other coaches, working other learning programs and things like that to fight those saboteurs that are in my head that are trying to take me out. And that one particular belief, which I believe that beliefs can only be changed through action. So the action that goes along with that is act while afraid. Have the courage to take the action, make the commitment. I love Mel Robbins, and Mel Robbins has this thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Just don't think about it. Just 3, 2, 1, go. And so I started using that tool that if I've got a great idea, do it. Don't think about it, just do it, because I can think myself out of it and start sabotaging myself. And so that defining the belief and then defining the actions that go along with it and committing to the actions, regardless of how I feel, has been what's allowed me to make the most progress in the last 5 years, but really mostly in the last 18 months to 24 months.
So how did you uncover that? Was it through coaching? Was it through self-reflection? Was it a combination?
It was a combination. I'd studied things in books, workshops. I'm part of a coaching network that offers me opportunities to have conversations with other coaches. And I'm a tools guy. I like creating tools. So I created a tool that works for me that helps me unpackage my limiting belief, what it costs me, and then what's the opposite. Not everybody's going to have the same opposite from the same belief. We'll have different opposites for different people. So what's the opposite? And then, hey, what's the evidence that the opposite is real in my life? And it turns out that the opposite has more evidence than the limiting belief. And so I just continued to work that exercise until it finally started to change the wiring in my head. So it's a combination of people, tools, and committed action on my part.
Yeah, man, I love it. So here's a fun one. What are bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Wow. What are bad recommendations? Manifestation. The biggest one is when people talk about thinking things into reality and manifesting, it's often stated without action. And I think that, faith without works is dead. You hear that from other traditions. It's real. That's true. You can get, I call it hopium, people that just get addicted to hope, and they get themselves excited by their manifestations and their vision boards and all of that. I'm a firm believer of it. As a matter of fact, if you look over my shoulder, there's my vision board. So I'm a believer in manifestations with action, vision boards with actions. You have vision, strategy, plans, actions. You have to always take action. And I think that there's a lot of soft coaching out there. There's a lot of feel-good coaching out there. And that's the biggest one that really kind of makes my skin crawl when I hear it. I'll give you another one that's really quick. People are talking about pivoting. If you pivot, you go in circles. So why don't you shift instead? There's this sloppiness of language when it comes to coaching and it comes to really motivating people that I get the point, but finish the thought. Think about the real consequences of what you say. And a pivot has you with one foot planted and all you can do is go in circles. But if you shift, then you can move and you can do things. And I think that there's a lot of cliche. There's a lot of coaches and consultants out there that are really just regurgitating somebody else's material and they don't have the experience and they don't know how to apply it. So I think the biggest misinformation is the people that teach as opposed to coach and present themselves as coaches.
Wow. I knew we hadn't even talked this deeply, but I knew you needed to be on this show because that's it. We laugh about it because we say thought leadership is easy, results leadership is hard. The results come from action. And I knew when I spoke to you, you were a man of action, and you just proved that. So let's get into the results portion here. Why do results matter, John?
If you don't have results, your self-esteem erodes and evaporates, and then you become paralyzed. It's only through results that we actually truly build up real self-esteem as opposed to just some narcissistic self-image that we're trying to present.
You just tore down all the gurus out there.
What's that?
You tore down all the gurus out there, the thought leaders, just thinking things.
If they're only in the head and they're not in their hands, then they're providing information maybe for somebody else. Not everything. I'm not disqualifying all of that. I'm just recommending that for people that are trying to absorb, you take the information, couple it with action, you're going to get results. thought leaders are important, but they can't be used all by themselves. You've got your diet has to have multiple elements in it for you to be balanced. It is imperative. I mean, look at how many books I've got behind me. I'm absolutely a firm believer in absorbing knowledge and apply it. Power is knowledge. No, it's not. Applied knowledge. You have to apply it. Knowledge is power, whatever that is, but you got to apply it. And people don't apply it. They just absorb it. Read 27 books in a month. Great. What'd you do with it? So I welcome the thought leaders, and then couple that with action, and you're going to get results.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's you have to, I like that thought. You have to put your hands on it. And that's the way you get real. I mean, that's when it really happens. So, John, let me ask you, in the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
That accountability is typically not present in most organizations. They think it is, but it's really not. And without a real culture of accountability, you're only going to get mediocre results, and you're going to spend a lot of energy getting there. So develop a culture that has a kind application of accountability, real accountability, where when you make a commitment, you honor a commitment. You don't give people excuses for only honoring commitments 92% of the time. What do you do about the other 8%? Well, the other 8% wasn't necessary. We didn't need it anyway. Come on, don't rationalize your lack of accountability. You needed it, and you needed it, and you just are afraid to fire people. So you allow people to get away with not honoring their commitments. And I'm not recommending just terminating everybody immediately, but what I am saying is build a foundation where you teach people how to be accountable. You teach people, if you don't have trust in your organization, people that are honest are going to lie. So if you, for example, if I'm a tyrant boss and I say, hey, Jonathan, can you get this done by Monday? Absolutely. Because you can't tell me no. So really you can't get it done by Monday, but it's easier to deal with that on Monday than it is to deal with me asking you a question today. So if I don't build a trusting environment in my organization, I can't build an environment where accountability is going to exist, because people aren't willing to speak the truth, and therefore results are random. And I'm trying to figure out how to concisely say this, but accountability in organizations isn't what people really want it to be. And often it's because they don't have a culture of trust in their organization.
That is an interesting angle.
I kind of went in circles on that a little bit, but I hadn't thought about it.
It works. It works. And it made me think of how I'm leading even. I'm like, maybe I can do a couple things better now that you've said that. Because they need to be in a safe environment, but there also needs to be consequences.
Yeah, that's fundamentally it. When people talk about accountability, they think about holding people accountable. And what I'm talking about is building a culture of accountability where people feel safe to be able to say no, and I can do it by Wednesday. And so therefore you're actually going to get results. And I just don't think most organizations really have a culture of safety and trust that allows for accountability to exist.
So let's turn inward for a second and get you to reflect a little bit. What area of your business would you like better results?
Prospecting and sales. I am undisciplined when it comes to that side of my business. I get really focused on the practice side, and I wind up having 47 Post-it notes and this and that, and I've got a CRM, so I buy the tools and then I don't use the tools, and I'm too disorganized to get an assistant, all that kind of stuff that happens for me, a solo practitioner. I'm disorganized when it comes to the administrative side of my business, and it most affects the sales and the prospecting side of my business, because there's not enough of a flow in maintaining relationships with people that are not yet clients. So I go through, spikes of growth, then a drought, then I lose some clients, then I'm chasing new clients, and I find myself in that situation, and I need that process to be more efficient.
Yes, sir. We all suffer from the feast or famine at some point.
Yes. Yeah.
Been there, done that.
But you know what, though? I don't want to overlook that. That's true, what you just said. But the fact is, for me, I'm undisciplined. So that exists because I lack discipline in that area, not just because it's a truism. And it's so easy to write it off as, well, everybody deals with that. And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just criticizing the fact that is common, that because it's common, we give everybody a break. And then we don't necessarily do the work and saying, okay, but really, what is it?
No.
And for me, it's lack of discipline.
This we're doing a show because if we were privately talking, we'd have a different conversation. I'm being polite, but you know what? I want to give you credit. I want you guys to see this. He just told us about organizations not having accountability. He lives it. You live it. You said it. You're like, no, this. I know it's me. So I respect that, man. I do. Yeah. I respect that totally.
Thank you.
Cool. So now for the big one. Are you sitting down?
I am sitting down.
All right, John, what results are you most proud of?
Wow. The ones I'm most proud of have absolutely nothing to do with my business.
Good. Share them.
The results I'm most proud of is I have 4 children that impress me every day. My son will be 24 in a couple of days. I've got a daughter who's 23, who's a master's student at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and they've paid her to go to college.
Wow.
You know, it's been that story in and of itself is a remarkable story. When she was a junior, she came home with just knots in her stomach and just she was sick to her stomach because she wasn't getting the grades she wanted on her ACT. And then just through conversations and her commitments, her taking action, you know, she got full ride scholarship to college. They paid for her dorm. She became an RA. You know, her senior year cost us $100, literally $110.
Wow.
You know. And for one fee that just got overlooked. And now they pay her to be a master's student. You know, the fact that, you know, she puts this work into action. I'm just so proud of their accomplishments. You know, my other daughter's doing real well. My youngest daughter's really committed to dance. I mean, she's the hardest working person. She's the most disciplined person I know. You know, she's got whiteboards in her room with what her plans are for her development of her dance. And it's just impressive to watch my children grow and become accomplished adults that are independent. And that's the biggest win.
Okay. So I can't just let it go there now because you really piqued my curiosity. I've got a 6-year-old boy and I'm always thinking, all right, what can I do to help this kid grow up into a productive man that is making a difference in the world? So how did your children learn all this discipline, get this drive? Was it by example? It can't just be that they naturally just figured it out. These 4 of them? Come on.
Yeah. Well, they all don't have discipline. Okay. Some of them have great tenacity.
Okay.
to be able to battle through the mistakes. I tried not to do everything for them. And I tried to minimize the amount of times I said no. Basically, I had 3 rules in the house. Safety is number 1. And the other one is to be yourself. I can't even remember this. I haven't had to say them in so long, but there was basically, safety, respect, physical safety, then emotional safety, which is respect everybody. And, we recognize we're different. And so we don't try to force each other to be like the others. And then the last one is have fun, enjoy life, be yourself. And, I protected each of them from the others because they're children to allow everybody to be themselves. And it created some interesting conversations, but that was it. Plus, we also made them 100% responsible for the choices that they made, even at 7 and 8 years old. We didn't save them. We didn't excuse them. You're responsible for it. And then we applaud them when they make successes. Also, we don't punish for mistakes. We punish for patterns. So if you make a mistake, that's entirely okay. We're humans. But when you create a pattern out of something, then discipline has to be brought in. So you're not constantly worried about, am I going to get in trouble? You're never going to get in trouble for making a mistake, but you will get in trouble for a pattern that's become dangerous or a mistake.
Oh, man, that is so good. I love that. I didn't know I was getting parenting advice today. Thank you for that. So any parting thoughts?
The biggest one that occurs, I'm seeing a pattern of this right now. So I'll share it on this program. If it's not what you mean, we'll go somewhere else. But when it's January. So a lot of people are looking at, what are my goals? What am I going to do different in 2021? And what I'm challenging my clients with is, don't tell me what you intend to do. Tell me what you commit to do. I don't want to know what your wishes are unless you're going to put it in the form of action. And I think that last year exhausted so many people that they were just kind of hoping 2021 would poof, it's already going to be easier. Well, it's not. And I'm seeing a lot of people declare what they're going to do. And there's no, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. well, then it's useless. So my parting words are, don't just make declarations that are intentions. What are you going to commit to do? And how are you going to commit to do it?
Boom. That's where the results come from. John, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this, how refreshing it was to have this talk with you. And dude, thank you so much. So if our listeners want to find out more about you, want to get in touch with you, want to talk to you, where is the best place for them to connect with you?
Well, my website is greatescapecoaching.com. And the reason for that is I help people escape from prison, the prison of their mind. So greatescapecoaching.com. I can also be found on LinkedIn. There's only about 4 of us in the whole world. So the one in Memphis, Tennessee, John Salajka.
Excellent.
Or they can call me. My number, I'm still one of those people that responds to phone calls the best. And my phone number is 901-255-6496. That's my direct line to my desk.
Ooh, look at that. This guy is old school. I love it. We will have links to the website, to LinkedIn, and if you want, we'll also print the phone number on there as well, since you seem open about it.
Completely open to it.
We'll put it right there for you. So,
yes.
John, this has been a real pleasure. I'm so grateful that we got together, and I think this is only the beginning, because I know I need to talk to you more, man. So thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast. And you asked some tough questions, so I appreciate that.
You handled it like a pro. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.